Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Wow, I didn't realize that my voice was so bad until just now. And my hair kind of looks a little funky. I'm gonna fix that really quick. I saw a TikTok a while back and it talked about, it was this lady, and I wish I could find it again and I would put it in here. Anyway, but this lady, she just started recording and she had her hair all pulled back and she's like, she pulled out her little side things and they're just like poking straight out. She's like, what is this? What is this? Guys, this is my entire life. Like, I don't know why those pieces of hair, they just don't grow long enough to be able to be blended in with the rest of my hair. They're there. My mom has the same thing. So if I have hair poking out, don't say anything. It's just my hair does not like to stick back. Using bobby pins to do so because they don't even stay there for forever. They find a way to sneak out of the bobby pins. Like, honestly, I don't understand. Anyway, for today's video, I have been seeing around that there is a dupe for the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette, and I was kind of curious because I know a lot of you have been asking me to do a lot more Anastasia Beverly Hills products, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to do kind of a dupe for this palette. Now this is the Modern Renaissance palette. Just get really fun shades in there. The dupe that everybody was saying for this palette is the Wet n Wild Rosé in the Air palette. If you look at this palette side by side, they look pretty identical. The only thing with this is there is 14 shadows in the Anastasia palette and there is only 10 shadows in the Wet n Wild palette, so you are missing out on 4 shadows. But overall, I think that you get most every single shadow that you would want to use in the palette. So there's that. But I'm still going to put this to test. One eye is going to be Anastasia and one eye is going to be Wet n Wild. So you guys can really see the difference and if it is worth saving a lot more money than buying the Anastasia Beverly Hills. Let's get into the video. Starting with my e.l.f. Camo Concealer, I am going to go in and prep the eyelids. Okay, so I'm going to try to keep separate brushes for both palettes, like separated, not use the same brushes. I don't have a lot of the same doubles for each brushes, so we're going to try our best here. Starting off in the Anastasia palette, I'm going to start with this shade called Warm Taupe. This is going to go into the transition. The Wet n Wild palette, this shade right here is the dupe for Warm Taupe. So if you can tell, the Wet n Wild one is a little bit more of a warmer toned brown than the one from Anastasia. Right off the bat, that's kind of what I'm noticing, is that the Wet n Wild one is just a tad warmer than the Anastasia. In the Anastasia palette, I'm going to be using this shade, which is called Beyond Fresca. And then this is just going to go, just kind of blend it in with the first shade that we used. In the Wet n Wild palette, this is the corresponding shade. I'm just going to do the same thing, just blending that into the brown. So far, I'm not really seeing much of a difference in those purple shades. The only thing that's making them look different is because those browns are a little bit off of each other. To deepen things up, I am going to go into this shade right here called Cypress Umber. It's just going to kind of go on the outer lower lash line. Kind of bring it up. As I lose product, I'm kind of going to bring that up and blend it in. Corresponding shade is this one. So I am moving on to the metallics, and it's kind of hard to tell with this lighter shade right here what that one corresponds with in the Anastasia one. Now this one right here, does correspond with Antique Bronze. This one's a little bit harder, so I'm gonna kind of swatch this and see which one it matches. The one in the Anastasia palette is Primavera, which is this one right here. So these are them right here. So this one right here is the Wet n Wild one, and this one right here is the Anastasia one. The Anastasia one is a little bit more smoother and finely milled versus the Wet n Wild one. Apply the Wet n Wild one first. The corresponding shade in the Anastasia one, Primavera. Okay, so looking at the two shades after they're on, this one does have a little bit more of like a golden undertone versus the Anastasia one, which has a little bit more of a champagne-y or pink undertone. All right, now I'm going to go into Antique Bronze, which is the bronze metallic in the Anastasia palette, and I'm just going to kind of marry the outer corner shade with the other metallic shade we use, just to kind of marry everything together. Taking the corresponding shade from the Wet n Wild palette. Side by side, those two are very identical. This is the Wet n Wild side and this is the Anastasia one. They are identical. There's no difference in that. All right, so I'm gonna quickly go off camera and finish the rest of my face makeup, and then I will be back and we'll finish up the eyes, and then I will give you my review on this dupe. All right, I am back and I finished my face makeup. There are a couple things that I still need to do, but we're going to finish off the eyes first. I am going to take, from the Anastasia palette, I am going to take, sorry, I had to blow it off here, the warm taupe shade that we use for our transition, and I am just going to buff that across the lower lash line. The corresponding shade from the Wet n Wild palette, I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. On a more precise brush, I am going to go into Cypress Umber, that dark brown shade, and I'm going to keep this a little bit closer to the lash line. I'm only bringing it from the outer corner into like probably 2/3 away. Okay, so my son got into my makeup brushes and I've got lipstick all over this brush, so I can't use that now. So I am going to just kind of rub off the shadow off of this brush, and you're going to use the same brush for the Wet n Wild palette in the corresponding shade, which is this dark brown shade right here. Quickly going to throw on some mascara. I'm using the It Cosmetics Superhero Mascara. Alright guys, so I have finished my makeup. Final thoughts on the dupe for the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. I do think that you can get similar looks with using the Wet n Wild Rosé in the Air palette. However, because you're only getting 10 shades in the Wet n Wild palette versus getting 14 in the Modern Renaissance palette, you are missing some shades in here, but overall you can get very similar looks. There are some shades that aren't matchy-matchy, like the shimmer shade that we use in the inner part of the lid. Those ones you can kind of tell initially when I put them on that the Wet n Wild has a little bit more of a golden, warmer undertone versus the Anastasia one. So as far as the mattes go, I do think that overall you're getting your bang for your buck. Mattes in the Wet n Wild palette are so similar to the Anastasia palette that it is worth the money. The metallic shades, you are only getting 2 metallic shades in the Wet n Wild palette versus getting 3 in the Anastasia palette. So there is going to be a difference in the metallic shades. Now, this metallic shade right here is an absolute dupe for the one in the Anastasia palette. Champagne-y, goldy one, however, is not a dupe. They are very similar to each other, and once you get the whole look put together, like you can't even really tell the difference in between my eyes. Like if you look closely, you can kind of tell that the Wet n Wild side is a little bit more warmer tone and the Anastasia is a little bit more cooler tone. But overall, I think that this is an absolute dupe for the Modern Renaissance palette. I think that you get very similar looks, very similar colors, and I would give it a thumbs up as far as being a dupe for this product. You save tons of money, you get very similar looks, and yeah, I don't know what else to say besides that. Hopefully you guys like this video, and if you like me doing more dupe videos like this, let me know, and I would love to do more in the future. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a video, which is Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!